Today, we are diving into a 12-man full PPR mock draft. All three of us fellas will be going head to head. Cameron is drafting from the 101. I will be drafting from the 109. And Tyler will be drafting from the 111. We'll be sniping each other on the turn. Let's give the people what they want, fellas. Let's start this mock draft. And Cameron, since you're at the 101, you will kick us off here. Who is your pick going to be?
Yeah, it's Christian McCaffrey. I feel like that should be consensus across the board. If you have the 101, the draft doesn't start with you; it starts the pick after. Like I personally do not think there should be any other player in consideration at the 101 other than Christian McCaffrey.
I think a lot of people will toss out, well, look at the previous year's 101s. I don't want the 101. I just think when you look at Christian McCaffrey and the offense he's in, the volume of touches he's going to get, he is the advantage of all advantages. And he's not one where if you swing and miss on him, you can fault yourself and say, darn, I should have seen that coming. Because the upside is too tremendous to really worry about that. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Breece Hall all went afterwards. That was like very consensus of what your mock drafts are typically going to look like. And I'm not going to deviate off of that really because my next highest ranked player is AJ Brown. I love taking him at the 109 this year. He is my favorite player to take there for a variety of reasons. I don't want to separate him from a Puka Nacua or Garrett Wilson, but I think he might have the best chance out of those three to really cement himself, into that tier of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end of the year. I really do believe that. Puka Nacua goes afterwards. So Ty, you're on the clock. Again, that's kind of the consensus Big Ten, yet you still have a Jahmyr Gibbs, a Garrett Wilson, and Jonathan Taylor here to choose from. Where are you choosing to start?
So I'm just kind of looking at the board, and the next 6 players available are Jahmyr Gibbs and Garrett Wilson, like you said. Then you've got Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Kyren Williams. You should know just by that list of players that the wide receiver drop-off is much heavier and bigger than the running back drop-off is from Jahmyr Gibbs to any of the other 3 that go behind him. So because of that, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson, who feels like he's like the last consensus round 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Jahmyr Gibbs did go next, and Kyren Williams did go at the 201. So back to you, Tyler, at the 202. You've got Garrett Wilson. Jonathan Taylor's still there. You looking to split your start, or are you going to pick up double wide receiver?
Gosh, plans foiled right out of the gate. I was like, I've got Kyren at the 202. Like, that's not a problem at all. And it is a problem because he just went right before me. That's stupid. So now I'm my 2 picks are obviously going to be either Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley. Like, those are the 2 guys. It has to be here. In my opinion, I'm not really a fan of the second, picking the second round on Marvin Harrison Jr., who we have not seen play a snap of NFL football just yet, and Davante Adams, who, look, like, I love the talent of Davante Adams, but there's a lot of valid question marks being raised about the guy right now. You guys know me. I'm not really in on Drake London to hit at his price tag either. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to go Saquon here ahead of Jonathan Taylor. I think both of these guys have very similar upsides. I think, at that point, it's a coin flip, and just so happened that it landed facing Saquon Barkley.
Jonathan Taylor did go off the board next. He would have been my pick had he made it back to me. Ty, you mentioned not being as in on Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's starting to become the guy when I get to this range in the second round. I'm starting to talk myself into being a Marvin Harrison Jr. believer, mostly because, again, you brought up the valid question marks about Davante Adams. I'm starting to buy into those a little bit more. I do think he's going to get plenty of volume, but I don't want to bank on any upside, quote unquote, because I don't think there's going to be much in this Raiders offense. Drake London, we got to see how Kirk Cousins comes back off of the Achilles. I think this is too early for a Chris Olave and a Sam Laporta. The only question mark I have about Marv is how hot of a start can he get off to? I know he's going to close out the season well, but how hot of a start is he going to give me? But I already have AJ Brown, who I think can cover that for me. So I am going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I just want to swing for upside in this range. That's what it really comes down to for me. And I think Marv might potentially have the highest upside out of that grouping of Devontae, Drake London, Chris Olave, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Josh Allen goes off the board next, followed by Sam Laporta, Drake London, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Travis Kelce, and Brandon Ayuk. So Cameron, to you on the turn, started with McCaffrey. You're looking at the top of the board, which is quite literally 4 straight running backs. Are you going to take another here, or are you going to have to reach down for wide receiver?
Yeah, it is like really tough for me here because Travis Etienne is my highest ranked player on the left on the board right now. He is my 16th overall in my flex rankings. As far as that goes, I have him ahead of Devontae, Chris Olave, and so it's really tempting to go him here. But it's also hard because, like Ty said, there is a lot of wide receivers going early in these couple, next couple rounds, and I got a long ways to wait if I start double running back. With that being said, I just don't think I can pass up on what I see as the value of Travis Etienne falling this late. I still see him as the workhorse in Jacksonville, and with that being said, that's going to be 50 plus targets. I mean, we could see up to 75 with Etienne, and it's going to be 250 carries. That's really hard to pass up when that's outside of injury, pretty guaranteed for ETN this season. So I'm going to start with ETN. And I'm not looking running back right now, right? I think 2 running backs, like I said, I'm even hesitant to do a 2 running back start. But 3 running back start, I just don't know if you can make it up in the wide receiver room. Whereas we do have running backs who are falling down the board. The 3 I'm looking at here are Mike Evans, Nico Collins, and Deebo Samuel. They're 3 of the next 4. Diggs is on that list as well. I just don't hold Diggs nearly the same. For me here, I don't really want to stack Deebo and CMC. I think they play too similar of a role on the 49ers, where it's like, it's always CMC week, but some weeks it's just a teeny less CMC to get some Deebo in there as well. So I don't really want to deal with that. So it comes down to Nico and Mike Evans. We talked about on our last episode. I'm higher on Nico now, but I'm still not as high as I am on Mike Evans. So I'm going to go Mike Evans with that pick there.
Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, goodness, Isaiah Pacheco, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins. All go off the board.
Thought he was getting a gift. He thought he was getting a gift.
I really did. I thought one of those wide receivers was going to slide to me. Look, before I read the top of the board here, I want to make sure that people know you can listen to our podcast in a variety of ways. The most entertaining way, as we always talk about, is over on YouTube. You can see the nice draft board over on YouTube as well. You get all of our faces over there too. YouTube.com/@thefantasyfootballfellas. You can also listen to our podcast feed though. If you're in the car, you don't want to pull up a YouTube video, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from, Fantasy Football Fellas podcast over there. Again, youtube.com/@thefantasyfootballfellas or wherever you get your podcasts from. So I'm looking at the top of the board. Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, some names that are there. And I think what I'm going to do, having started double wide receiver, I cannot pass up, again, what I think is just a value at this range. Over the past 2 years, bare minimum, we've had to pay the price for a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was a tail end of the first round pick last year. Josh Allen was mid-second round. We haven't drafted a single quarterback yet. I can get a almost 2 full round discount compared to where we had to draft quarterbacks last year on the quarterback that I think is going to be the overall quarterback 1 this year. And I get to stack him with my wide receiver 1. I am going to take Jalen Hurts there. He is a player I have a very difficult time passing up on this year. And he's a guy I would rather invest in early than wait and try and play this game with quarterbacks later of, okay, I need a wide receiver 3. Do I go a quarterback? Do I go wide? I need a running back 2. Do I go a quarterback? Screw that. I'm just going to get who I think is going to be the best one this year and attach him with the same wide receiver in his offense. And I'm just going to get it done with. So nothing to me beats getting a value on Jalen Hurts, especially when Josh Allen is going in the second round this year. That is a screaming value to me. And I will take that all day, every day, as Jalen Waddle goes afterwards. So it's your pick here, Ty. You split Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley to start. What direction are you looking to go?
I'm in a pretty interesting spot here. I'm not really looking quarterback or tight end just yet. And I'm looking at the receivers on the board. I'm looking at DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Malik Neighbors, Cooper Kupp. Then I'm looking at like DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith. So there's pretty good wide receivers still available. I'm looking at running backs. There's Rashad White, James Cook, Joe Mixon. And kind of in the same thought that I had, at the very beginning of the draft, where I was like, the drop off on wide receiver after Garrett Wilson is pretty steep. So I'm going to go receiver. It's kind of similar in this vein. Like, running backs are going to drop off pretty quickly after this round. So it's a question of, do I just go get the running back right now? Do I try to risk one team picking twice before I pick again? And that's what I'm going to do, because there are wide receivers that I like here that I have in a similar tier that I don't think there's one wide receiver that's really separating themselves. So with that, I'm going to go James Cook here. And that's really just a volume thing. Like, I'm not expecting high touchdown numbers. I'm not expecting huge efficiency from James Cook this year. I just know that he's going to get the rock a ton this year. So now I can just sit pretty on my two running backs. And now I can just go hunt wide receivers pretty much for the rest of the draft. And now the two receivers that I'm looking at after, let me see, who went at right after? DJ Moore and Patrick Mahomes went right after. So
Correct.
according to my rankings, my highest ranked wide receiver that's still available is DK Metcalf, but just 3 points, according to my stat projections, below him is Michael Pittman. So now the question is, do I take another volume play, a guy that's got a relatively safe floor and a Michael Pittman Jr., or do I go hunt for the upside with a guy like DK Metcalf? And honestly, I already took the volume. I took the safe floor with James Cook. So I'm going to hunt the upside, and I'm going to go DK Metcalf.
So I want to ask this question to you, Ty, because I'm on the same, I'm on the turn as well. How many picks down are you looking here on the turn, right? Because DK was supposed to go the pick before me, right? Which, when you're on the turn, there's no chance he's making it back to you then, especially a name like DK Metcalf. He's not going to make it a full round. So how many picks down? Like, are you looking within the same round? Are you going just anybody before that I don't think will make it back to me? What's your thought process there on the turn?
Yeah, I'm usually kind of looking at like the next 12 picks, right? Guys that are projected to kind of go in the same round that I'm picking in. Because obviously we're not going to go look for guys that are projected or, are ranked to go in the 5th or 6th round. So again, like, we're not reaching too far, but we're just looking at who's slated to go within the next 12 picks of this round and just saying, okay, out of these receivers that are available right here, who are the ones that I have ranked the highest, because I know that those guys are not getting back to me.
All right. So everybody, you have permission to reach. Just don't reach too much if you're on the turn.
just don't scroll down 20 picks. You're
Yes.
allowed to scroll. You're allowed one scroll. When you
Yes.
scroll the once, you have to stop. You're done. You can't go
Yes.
any further than that. No, but I think that is an important question to bring up, because again, I was going to bring it up, Ty. If you didn't take DK Metcalf, the other thing you have to think about is just knowing your league mates too. Not that DK Metcalf was ever going to wrap all the way back to you, but had DK Metcalf not been taken there, he was going to be my pick, because I cannot resist a 4th round DK Metcalf this year. So I agree with both your remarks there. Of if it's within the round, just take your favorite player, especially when you got anywhere from 20 to 24 picks until it comes back to you. With that being said, I'm going to take my next highest ranked wide receiver. I think there is a legitimate chance this wide receiver makes his current ADP look absolutely foolish, especially when reports out of camp is that he is back fully healthy. The offense is completely running through him, which is also concerning considering Puka Nacua. He's a little banged up right now as well. I am going to go ahead and take Cooper Kupp. I know people are going to be concerned about the injury risk. They're going to roll their eyes and groan and say, yeah, he won me the championship 2 years ago. But come on, man, it's been 2 years. I believe this could be a top 5 offense in the NFL this year. That's how much I believe in Sean McVay. That's how much I believe in Kyron Williams. That's how much I believe in Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. I think this offense could be absolutely explosive this year and in quite a few shootouts as well, because let's not forget the anchor of this defense, Aaron Donald, did retire. He is no longer there. This is a team that can find themselves in shootouts very often this year. So I will take all the weapons I can get in the Rams offense. And I frankly love that start of A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jalen Hurts, and Cooper Kupp. Trey McBride off the board next. Michael Pittman, Malik Neighbors, Lamar Jackson as well. Teammate Mark Andrews went afterwards, and Devonta Smith and Ken Walker. So Cameron, it's back to you. You've got a 1-2 punch of McCaffrey and ETN as your running back. Mike Evans then at wide receiver. Look, the wide receivers, they're pretty slim pickings right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're not wrong.
He's pretty frustrated.
I was really hoping that one of those 5 receivers in this round would have made a pick to me. And they didn't. So that sucks. So we're going to pivot. We're going to go tight end for sure here. We're going to go Dalton Kincaid. I'm going to build up the tight end room. I really like him here. Like we said, we talked about last episode on the tight end episode. Those two, in that tier above, in the Laporta Kelsey tier, you have to reach in the second, but then you can get guys like McBride, Andrews, and Kincaid who are really only feel like they're kind of a half step down 2 full rounds later. Like I just love that value. And then the other wide receiver here, I just I want to switch it up, but I know I've drafted this guy a lot, but I have to according to my rankings because I'm so ridiculously high on him. And it is Amari Cooper. I have.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Deontay Johnson.
Well, I don't quite have him that high in my rankings. He's a little closer to T. Higgins, but but I am ridiculously high on Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is a fantastic wide receiver. I think he's easily the number 1 target in this offense. And so I think even if Deshaun Watson is again, I think Amari Cooper is going to be just fine. I gotta say I don't love my wide receivers. Like I think they're both gonna be solid, but at the same time, right, I don't have a guy where I have wide receiver 1 overall upside. And that's kind of one thing that I think you miss going to running back to start or starting with a running back in general, like Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, I have potential to have the number 1 overall player in fantasy football with CMC, but I just don't get that with a wide receiver in Mike Evans and Amari Cooper here. But I'll live with it because I feel like I have more of a complete build with the way I've started.
I mean, you really just got to take your medicine when you start 2 running backs at the 1.
100%.
When you start McCaffrey and then you take a guy like ETN afterwards. I mean, you have to take your medicine. It is pass catchers the next probably 6 rounds you're looking at, basically, where I've really got to make up some ground. I may have the best running back room in the league, but I might also have the worst wide receiver room in the league, and that's just the cost you pay. So you're really forced to take your medicine and really throw darts at wide receivers the rest of your draft to make up some ground. But
for sure,
we'll see what pans back to you here in the future rounds. As CJ Stroud, Alvin Kamara, George Pickens, Joe Mixon off the board, along with Tank Dell, James Conner, and Zay Flowers. Now, I'm in a little bit of a pickle because I kind of want to play an ADP game.
Bully tight end.
A
bully quarterback.
I'm looking to go double tight end. No. So here's the predicament I'm in. I don't love any of the running backs in this range. I mean, Aaron Jones is at the top. David Montgomery is down there as well. But I gotta scroll a bit to find another running back that I am okay drafting. I was really hoping a James Conner or a Joe Mixon would potentially slide. Did not happen. This is the only disadvantage of going a 1Z and 3 wide receivers off the bat. I'm torn between Kyle Pitts and T. Higgins. The catch is, I don't know if I don't take Kyle Pitts, if a guy like George Kittle is going to slide back to me. Because after George Kittle, I'm okay with a Jake Ferguson later, but I do think I don't know if Jake Ferguson's upside is the exact same as a Kyle Pitts or a George Kittle's could be this year. Oh, that upset you, Tyler. That upset you.
I think he could be the tight end 1 this year.
Oh,
No,
you
you
stop that.
Absolutely.
No, you don't. No, you do not.
You're right. I don't. But I'm just reacting that way because you guys know that I'm the Jake Ferguson stand here.
Here's what I'm going to do. I've made up my mind. I am going to take T. Higgins here, and I might just shut her down at wide receiver for this draft. I might not take another wide receiver. because I've already got my depth built out. I can. That was such a snipe. That was. Oh.
Golly.
Ty was licking chops for
I'm gonna-
18.
You might as well play it twice because it's
Richardson.
right after you that get. Golly.
Oh, you wanted T. Higgins too.
Yeah, little like I want you. You can talk about your pick, but literally the top 3 guys I was okay with, but the guy that I was like least okay with is the one that's available.
So the reason why I'm going 4 wide receivers early is, yeah, I could just throw another dart on a couple of guys later. But when I don't like the running backs in this range, and I like the running backs I can get later, why would I not just 0 RB this thing and just wait until I get a handful of running backs I know I can get at a value later? So that's why I went T. Higgins there. And with A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins, I'm not looking wide receiver at all. Like, I'm taking that position off my board until maybe the 12th round. And even then, I might not draft another one because I might just take 6 running backs instead. Anthony Richardson did go off the board next too. Yes, Ty, I'm sure you desperately wanted. We all love him as a late 5th round value this year. So who is the guy you mentioned that you were quote unquote least okay with?
It's Kyle Pitts. Just because I'm looking at the guys that are going right after him. It's Keenan Allen, it's George Kittle, Aaron Jones, Christian Kirk. Like, I'm not really like in love with any of those guys. While with with Kyle Pitts, like, I'm getting top 5 upside. Even, I mean, if everything goes right for Kyle Pitts, does he push top 3 even? Like that, like, so yeah, Kyle Pitts is the best remaining player before I believe like there's just a general step down as we get into like the 6th round of the draft. Golly.
Keenan Allen. Terry McLaurin.
That one was
off the board
Terry.
afterwards.
Oh.
You deserve this.
Oh, this is fun.
Dude.
Oh, this is fun. This is so fun. Keenan Allen and Terry McLaurin did go afterwards. Ty, you are on the clock here again after going Kyle Pitts.
Oh my Atlanta. Okay, now
Bully tight end. Bully tight end. Bully tight
Double
end.
tight end, one in the flex.
golly. Jeez Louise.
What's wrong
Here
with
comes
Christian
full
Kirk?
tilt. Full tilt from Ty here. Here we go. Jaden Reed.
There's nothing really wrong with Christian Kirk. It's just that I've got other receivers projected to outscore him this year that are kind of a little ways down the board. So it's kind of back to the conversation that we had earlier of just like looking within the range of 12 picks here of who's available and like just figuring out who I've got, projected to score the highest. But the problem is that I've got to go a ways down for that one. So this stinks. I don't like it. I'm gonna go a little ways down. I'm gonna go Chris Godwin.
Good pick.
I last year was scary from Chris Godwin, where like it just was not pretty. But with all the reports that have been coming out of training camp, like there seems to be a lot of positive buzz for Chris Godwin about his potential role of being in the slot more often than he was last year, and that's where he's the most effective. So it's not a pick that I love. But at the same time, like he is the wide receiver that I've got ranked the highest of anyone that's remaining. So I'm kind of sticking to my projections a little bit. I'm biting the training camp buzz on Chris Godwin. So I'll make him my 3rd receiver here.
I mean, and again, I do think he's within kind of that round ADP. I mean, he is a late 6th round pick. So as much as people might feel like, oh, that's a reach. I mean, like, he's not going to make it back to you. If he's your next highest guy, go ahead and take him. Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, fellas. When we get back, I do think I need to have a little bit of a discussion around which player I'm going to take next. I alluded a little bit to a player that's still on the board, but I think we need to talk some strategy when we come back from the break. Today's podcast episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where it is best ball summer. There are 5 core best ball tournaments to play in with over $20 million up for grabs this summer. You can even take a crack at winning the top prize of $1.5 million in their infamous Best Ball Mania 5 contest. To enter, head to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FELLAS to get a first deposit bonus up to $250 and our 2024 draft guide for free. Again, head to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use code FELLAS to sign up. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit npcgambling.org. Alrighty, we are back. We are through 5 rounds. The 12-man full PPR fantasy football draft. I am on the clock. My team thus far has been A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jalen Hurts, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins. I have gone 4 wide receivers and 1 quarterback. And now the discussion I think I need to have, fellas, is I brought up George Kittle last round and said I don't feel like, as much as I like Jake Ferguson, George Kittle is kind of the one guy I want to make sure I leave drafts with, but he is the guy that closes out this top tier of 7 where I question if the rest of them truly do have top 5 upside. I think you could poke holes in any single one of their cases. That being said, I really need a running back. And a lot of the guys with upside that I do typically like later on, again, like an Alvin Kamara, he probably would have been my pick last round. A James Conner or Joe Mixon, right? Like those are guys I would have taken. And the guys with other upside that I like are still a ways down the board, but they're getting thin pretty quick. And David Montgomery is sitting right there. He could just be a constant anchor in a running back room that desperately needs somebody right now. So is it wise for me to skip over George Kittle, who actually, admittedly is a little bit more boom bust? I mean, we're talking about a guy who did have, 6 games with less than 6 fantasy points last year. And you know what? I think I am going to take David Montgomery here as my running back 1. I am going to get a constant every week, someone who is going to get 15 rush attempts every week, and on a Detroit Lions offense that will be in scoring position often, will be one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. David Montgomery could just fall into the end zone every week, and frankly, when I'm going 0 RB, that's kind of what I'm hoping for out of at least one of my running backs. Can you hit pay dirt this week? Because if you do, I'm probably going to get double digits from you, and that's what I'm looking for at this point. So I will elect to go David Montgomery as my first running back there and pass on a George Kittle. Christian Kirk, Joe Burrow, Ramondre Stevenson followed that pick. Then George Kittle went off the board with DeAndre Swift, Rome Odunze, and Evan Ingram. Cameron, you are on the turn here. I have a feeling I know at least one of your picks, and you'll have to, again, do your 1-round scroll down to get him. But you are in need of another wide receiver, and there actually are some like sneaky, decent wide receivers that you could make arguments for in this range.
Yeah, I'll start with the wide receiver. I'll let the people, if they've watched our show a couple times, they should know who my 7th round pick is going to be. Like that should be obvious at this point. So I'll start with the other pick. And it will have to be a wide receiver. The top 5 on the board: Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, Calvin Ridley. Only one of those guys is either A, not going to be suspended, or B, not in an ambiguous wide receiver room where we don't know what their role is going to be, and that's Calvin Ridley. Right? We know Rashee Rice, Jordan Addison have their off the field issues. Xavier Worthy, is he going to be even in, 2 wide receiver sets? Is he going to, what's his role? Is he the 4th best pass catcher? Jaden Reed, is he ahead of Christian Watson? Is he behind him? Is he ahead of even Romeo Doubs? Like you would assume, but at the same time, that Packers wide receiver room is crazy. Calvin Ridley, he's the alpha. We know DeAndre Hopkins is now dealing with a knee injury. And so it's just that to me feels like a pretty smash pick there. Even if you're kind of on the fence of, I don't know how great Calvin Ridley still is. He's going to get wide receiver 1 targets, and that's really what matters to me here in the end of the 6th round. So I'm going to take Ridley. And then I'm going to just keep this short and sweet because we've talked about him so many times. It's Kyler Murray. It's end of the 6th round, 7th round, taking a quarterback, it's him every single time. He has the most rushing upside you can get this late in the draft, besides maybe Jaden Daniels, and he's not a rookie. He's already finished as the quarterback 1 overall. So yeah, Kyler Murray smash pick there.
Rashee Rice, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy followed, then Tony Pollard, Jaden Reed, Najee Harris, Zamir White. All off
That's what
the
we like
board.
to see.
It's a little bit of a dagger because I was hoping maybe I could squeeze in a Najee or a Zamir White here, but to no avail. The other thing I'm concerned about is Team 10 and Team 12 don't have tight ends yet. And if I don't go out and get my guy now, I'm afraid I might not get him. That being said, Brock Bowers, David Njoku, and Jake Ferguson are all still on the board. And unless if Ty really wants to get feisty and go double tight end with Kyle
triple tight
Pitts, go triple tight end. It's a little bit of a risky game. I'm not sure what kind of risk I want to run there. I think what I'm more concerned about, though, is that I'm going to miss out on yet another running back that, look, frankly, I think I'd just be stupid to pass up on it just to try and go get a tight end when in reality, I could live with one of these guys at tight end. Why would I not take the guy who was the running back 2 last year, who scored 18 rushing touchdowns, who could find himself in scoring position very often again this year? I'm not saying the Miami Dolphins are always going to fall down on the 2-yard line and Raheem Mostert will clean it up from there. But is it really all that unreasonable to think that Raheem Mostert could score 10, 11 rushing touchdowns this year and finish as the running back 18? Like, is that really all that unreasonable to think? Like, just because we don't think he's going to finish as the running back 2 with 18 touchdowns again this year, we're all like, nah, I'm good. I'll pass on him. I don't know, man. I'll just take good players on good offenses that are going to be in scoring position. And honestly, I think I just got a full round discount on a David Montgomery. I basically drafted the same player twice. Both have young, more efficient pass catching backs ahead of them. Both guys are probably going to be more utilized around the goal line and early down work. Great. Awesome. I will take those guys. So David Montgomery and Raheem Mostert start my running back room after going 4 wide receivers and Jalen Hurts to kick off my draft. Jordan Addison off the board next. Tyler, to you, Garrett Wilson, Saquon, James Cook, DK Metcalf, Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin is your roster so far. How are you going to start to close out this puppy?
So I know that one of my picks will be a quarterback, and I am very, very happy with the quarterback that is available, and I can quite literally play the board because I know that the team right after me has Patrick Mahomes. They will not be taking this next.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
If I do, then someone is actually controlling Team 12. Like that is how so with that,
how maniacal the pick would be. Yeah.
Dude,
awesome.
I would quite
that
literally
would be
just
awesome.
rage quit. So I'm looking at my team, and I've got 3 wide receivers. I've got, like you said, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin. I got Saquon Barkley, James Cook is my running backs. It's a matter of what position group do I want to, bolster up even more at this point. And I'm not really a huge fan of the running backs that are available here. Like, I know that you guys like Jalen Warren. I think for where he is, his ADP, he's a great value. But I think there's a guy with slightly better value. And if I'm honest, I think I need one more receiver to feel a little bit more, steady at the position. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson, who I've got ranked as a top 30 wide receiver this year. It's not exciting, but the thing is, I don't
both
need to
do.
Yeah. Well, it's literally 30. Like, I'm not putting him any closer to top 25. Like 30 is where he is. But again, I'm not in. What? Who'd you think I was going to go with?
Not him. That's heartbreaking.
You thought he was going to get back to you?
Yeah, I was preparing my speech for having 4 wide receiver ones on my team. Like, not fantasy wide receiver ones, but wide receiver ones on their team. Like, I was walking through that. That sucks. I hate you.
So, as I predicted, the quarterback, Jordan Love, that is still available, made it back to me. Now, I could do the most funny thing in the world where David Njoku and Jake Ferguson are still available. And the two teams right after me need tight ends. And one of those teams is Lucas. So I could
So it's funny. Go ahead, do it. Do it. I dare you. I dare you.
Do it.
I can't, man. I got to go Jordan Love.
Oh,
Jordan
they
Love,
don't even take a tight end.
unbelievable. But he's still going to go David Njoku just to spite me that since I like
You
Jake
should.
Ferguson so much, he's going to go the other way. No, but with Jordan Love, I've got him as my quarterback 7 in my rankings. And the guy was top 5 at the position last year. Like for, he's not going to give you elite rushing upside or anything like that. But the fact is, this Green Bay offense could be one of the highest scoring units in the league. He will add 3-4 rushing touchdowns in his production. So for where he's going in drafts, like, I know that you guys like to sing the praises of Dak Prescott. We all love Kyler Murray, but Jordan Love is like a top 3 value at the position this year. So I'm a huge fan of scooping him up in the, what is this, 8th round? In the 8th round.
Yeah, I think that's fine value on Jordan Love, especially, again, we're looking 10 picks after Brock Purdy. Yeah, I love that. I'll scoop that up all day, every day. If I get that kind of value on Jordan Love. I'm really tempted to scroll down here and take Jalen Warren. I'm just going to name that. I'm really tempted to do it.
I know you're looking at him. I know you're eyeing him up.
and I know he's not going to make it back to me because my guess is that Cameron's going to split wide receiver running back on the turn here. And can I live without Jake Ferguson? That's really the question I'm asking myself right now is, can I live without Jake Ferguson? And I'm starting to convince myself that I can. Mostly because he is my tight end 8. So the problem is I keep looking at these running backs and my gosh, it just keeps getting disgusting and disgusting and disgusting the further I keep scrolling down. But man, like Jake Ferguson is like the last tight end I think I actually trust before we get into a range where it is truly, truly dart throws, excuse me, not dart throats, dart throws on guys.
Whoa.
Yeah, I am going to take Jake Ferguson here. I mean, based on his usage, he scored nearly 4 touchdowns less than expected last year. And if the Dallas Cowboys have shown me anything that's offseason, it's that they are willing to chuck the ball around the yard again this year. Their running back room is debatably, I've said, the flimsiest in the NFL. We got Zeke and Rico Dowdle. Nobody knows which one it's actually going to be. Zeke, I hope there was some acting. There was a practice clip that came out that I sent it to our group, and
that was wild.
the caption on the video was, Zeke looks like my pops after he stood up too quickly, and it's true. He was moving around like an old man. I'm like, that worries me. And can we really trust Rico Dowdle? So I think this is a Dallas Cowboys offense that's going to be chucking the ball around the yard again this year, and I'll take a piece of that in Jake Ferguson. And again, the 8th round, who. Again, I said George Kittle is kind of that break off tier, but I do think you can make a strong case for Jake Ferguson, who could easily be, a top 7 tight end this year himself. Nick Chubb, Ladd McConkey, David Njoku, Javonte Williams, then Jonathan Brooks, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, DeAndre Hopkins. So Ty Cameron, Jalen Warren did make it back to you. I'm just going to assume he's going to be one of your picks. Are you also looking to add another wide receiver here since you were targeting Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, I will be adding wide receiver. You're right. Jalen Warren's my pick. I think, Zach Moss is interesting, but at the same time, that camp move scares me a little bit from what we've been hearing about, Chase Brown's looking special. Chase Brown's getting the most of the first team snaps. It was kind of already assumed that in that split, Chase Brown would get the receiving work. So if the split goes 60-40, Chase Brown and Brown gets the receiving work, that upside is super capped for Zach Moss. It gets a little scary. So that's enough to kind of, make that tiebreaker for me, go Jalen Warren's way there. And then at wide receiver, it's Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, and Christian Watson. Keon Coleman, like the camp hype, I'm getting a little excited about, right? Like I've seen a couple videos. He's a guy who was a little worried about being a body catcher, and he's not. He is a high point kind of guy. Hey, he is a null, right? I mean, he is a null. So
bandwagon.
Bandwagon.
But I do have Dalton Kincaid. So I don't want two Buffalo pass catchers right now. Brian Thomas, I don't know what the role is going to be year one. I don't know what it's going to look like year one. We talked about it. He's one of the most raw wide receiver prospects, right? It could be phenomenal. He could come out and be just like he was at LSU. He could need a year or two. And Christian Watson, I want to say, like Ty, you just talked about that Green Bay offense. They're going to score a lot of points. And if we're being honest, Christian Watson is the highest upside out of any wide receiver on that team. I think he also might have the lowest floor, because it could just be, year 4, I think, for him, year 3. Injuries, he just can't overcome the injuries. He never sees the field. He's a bummer. But I'm going to take the upside shot here with Christian Watson as my wide receiver 4 and just hope that, hey, you know what? He becomes the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay, because if he is, that is going to be a phenomenal spot to be in, especially for a guy, I'm getting in the 901.
9th round Christian Watson is just insane when we were drafting him in the 5th round last year.
100%.
I mean, the only thing that the thing that you're scared about with Christian Watson is the injuries, and he has very clearly addressed that. If you follow any reputable sports medicine analyst, they all are saying like this muscle imbalance difference needs to be closer. His was 20%. It needs to be closer to 10%, which Watson has gotten it down to. Ideally, you want to just be 50-50 both sides, right? But he's gotten it down to this 10% difference, and he's going to keep working on that. And I'm willing to bite on that and buy into that a little bit, especially with so much ambiguity. Is it Dontavian Wicks, who is the world's most popular fantasy football sleeper to ever exist? Is it Jaden Reed, who didn't stay on the field during critical moments in the playoffs? Or is it Romeo Doubs, who was always on the field? He has like the most solidified role on the team. I will go ahead and just take the athletic freak. Yeah, you got Bo Melton too, who people are starting to creep up on too. So yeah, just give me like the athletic freak that was profiled to be a wide receiver 1 for this team that everyone was excited about, and now we're just getting a discount as a post-hype sleeper. Keon Coleman did go next, followed by Austin Eckler, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Caleb Williams, Brian Thomas Jr. then went, and TJ Hawkinson as well. This next pick isn't going to be sexy. It's not going to be fun. I'm perfectly okay making the pick, though, because I'm just going to take Brian Robinson Jr. here in an offense that is going to need some really down rushing work. Again, I think he's going to be the goal line back compared to Austin Eckler. That's 4 for Ty now. That's four snipes on Ty. Ty, was it Brian Robinson you were after? 5?
Yeah.
You're upset. Well, okay, so you make the case for Brian Robinson then, because for me it's
no.
Why
you tell me why I made a good pick.
Let me just rub it in a little bit more. Let me put some salt in that wound for you. Why don't you tell me why I made a good pick?
No, so I'm on the clock here, and no, fine. Brian Robinson, I think
you don't have to.
No, I'm doing my job. I'm analyzing the pick. Brian Robinson, yeah, early down goal line back. I'm not going to say it's the David Montgomery role, but it's kind of similar in the sense that, again, early down workload with the goal line upside. And he's going, 3 rounds? Yeah, 3 rounds after him. Like, you're not asking the world of Brian Robinson, but if he can give you 11, 12 on a given week, you'll take that. So I think Brian Robinson, for where he goes, is a very fine value.
Yeah, I'm asking him to give me 10 points against a bad defense. That's all I'm asking him to do. I'm not asking much from the guy. I just need to be able to plug him in a good matchup that he could potentially take advantage of. And what if Austin Eckler's just toast? Like, what if he's actually just not good anymore? I think that's a real possibility too that we need to consider. Tua Tagovailoa went off the board next. So Ty, it is to you, who you got sniped on Brian Robinson Jr. You're looking running back here, I presume, then.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm going to do this, but
here you are.
I was not expecting that.
No,
I don't.
That actually kind of sucks. I was looking at Chase Brown too.
I don't understand what it is about Chase Brown with all the positive news that's been coming out about him.
Special players.
We are talking special team specialists from 2023. You betcha. I will say, like, there is a part of me that still thinks like the reason why Zach Moss hasn't been running with the ones as much as Chase Brown is just because like Chase Brown has been in the offense for a year. Like Zach Moss is a new addition. He's still learning the offense and stuff like that. But on the chance that he is the one in this offense, getting him as a depth piece, I then reap the benefits of what would be a pretty big workload in the Cincinnati offense. And again, if it doesn't work out, there's going to be someone that pops up on waivers. If Chase Brown really is just, again, special team specialist, I can cut my losses, not really feel anything. So I'll take that, as my running back 3 as a bench piece. I'm not completely sold on it, but again, I there's at least a path to upside now that I didn't think was there before.
I will say the way you two both led into your last 2 picks, I thought both of you were taking Zeke with your last 2 picks. Both of you like led into it like this is the Zeke pick. It's gross. Or Ty was like, I know I maybe shouldn't do it. Or like both of you, I'm like, oh, there goes Zeke, and then it's Brian Rouse to Chase Brown. So that was awesome. I was just completely thrown off.
I will say about Chase Brown too. Like there is an athletic profile to this guy. I mean, there is the athletic high burst upside that he possesses. Also, I believe he was a 1,200-yard rusher his senior year too. So he has a production profile as well. Fact check me on that. But there is something to be said about like let's just bet on the guy who has the athletic profile who could play a little bit of lightning in this lightning and thunder, scheme that it seems like the Bengals are going to run with a Zach Moss and Chase Brown this year. Do you have that number off, Anti?
Nah, I do not.
But go ahead, talk through your next pick, and I'll fact check myself.
So,
Say it again.
1,600 yards on 328 attempts senior year.
Holy crap! So yeah, he has a production profile there too, which might add a little bit more spice to that Chase Brown pick. I didn't realize it was 1,600, especially at 328. Holy crap! That can't be true. Was that really true? 328 attempts?
Yeah, in 12 games.
That's a guy he never touched 170 before his senior year, senior year.
Are we sure that PJ
off
was a coordinator in Illinois at that point?
Yeah, that's wild.
Wow.
There you go. There's your Chase Brown stat today. 1,600 yards on 328 attempts. It's only 10 rushing touchdowns, though. Guy's a scrub. Anyways, Ty, you can make your next pick.
Holy jeez Louise. I didn't realize he had a game with 29, 33, 32, 41, 31, 25, and 36 carries. That's
40,
unreal.
41 attempts is tough.
And that was against Minnesota too.
Oh, of course it was. Of course it was.
Row the boat, baby.
Row the boat. Sky Uma, go Gophs.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this mock draft. With this next pick, I'm going Curtis Samuel. On the chance that he becomes the Bills' number 1 receiver behind Dalton Kincaid. I think this was, a stat that has recently surfaced, but the year that Joe Brady was offensive coordinator in Carolina, Curtis Samuel was a top 25 wide receiver. So that would explain, or, I'm not going to use like fantasy stats or a reason why a team would go out and sign a guy like Curtis Samuel, but like Joe Brady likes utilizing Curtis Samuel in his offenses. So again, on the chance that he becomes the number 1 receiver behind Dalton Kincaid, playing with Joe Burrow, or sorry, not Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Wow, that was a bad miss. Holy smokes.
That was rough.
Play with Josh Allen. Like, I don't know. Getting that is another depth piece. Like back-to-back depth pieces with Chase Brown and Curtis Samuel, where there is a path to legitimate upside. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't come to fruition, I have no problem cutting ties with them.
Yeah, I will add too. Curtis Samuel was the third highest fantasy scoring wide receiver that season for the Panthers and was still top 25. So he doesn't even have to be the wide receiver 1 on this team, to be a, viable fantasy option.
It does seem like he's going to be the most likely to return on where he's currently going in drafts, though. I think you can poke a ton of holes in Keon Coleman's game. I think you could poke, Khalil Shakir as well. Dalton Kincaid is the one, again, we'll kind of exempt him from this, but I do think Curtis Samuel is the most likely to return on his ADP. Hayden Winks over at Underdog Fantasy, wide receiver 31 in his projections for this year. So, there you go. If you want something to roll your way on Curtis Samuel, Ty, there you go. Trey Benson off the board next. We got 3 picks here, fellas, to close out this draft. Why don't we fly through these? I'm going to take Tyjae Spears, next highest ranked running back. I'm a little bit scared off by old man Zeke at camp here. At one point, I was very in on him, but I do think at some point we have to say, you know what, maybe Rico Dowdle is just the more exciting back at age 26. He's got less tread on the tires. Maybe at some point he does start to take things over in this backfield. So I'm willing to overgo Zeke for Tyjae Spears, who I think, by the end of the season could be playing, more of a 1A, 1B with Tony Pollard. Brian Callahan has already come out and said that it's going to be a split backfield, but we could be looking at Tyjae Spears as the more high energy, high burst guy at the end of the season to be played over Tony Pollard. So I'm not going to rule that out, especially when I can get him, nearly 4 full rounds later, 3 full rounds later, excuse me. Jaden Daniels, Dalton Schultz, Jameson Williams, then Zeke Elliott goes off the board, followed by Blake Corum, Gus Edwards, and Justin Herbert. So Cameron, you are on the clock here. 2 of your final 3 picks will be made. How are you looking to close out the draft?
I'm going to split it again. I'm going to go running back, wide receiver. The wide receiver to me is actually pretty obvious here, and it's Tyler Lockett. I still have him as a top 45 wide receiver. I think we've talked enough about Ryan Grubb, where if you've been listening to us, you understand they're going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, which means Lockett's going to be on the field, even if JSN takes over that wide receiver 2 role. I think Lockett's got just enough in the tank to still be, very, very good this season. And then for my running back, I'm looking at Jerome Ford, Zach Charbonnet. I don't want to go back-to-back Seattle Seahawks, and I'm actually going to reach down, and I'm going to take Ty's guy here. I'm going to take Chubba Hubba, and especially with the news coming out about Jonathan Brooks potentially not being ready to go to week 3 or 4, not playing in the preseason at all. Who knows how long it really is going to be till he gets going. So we know he at least has a role for the first quarter, probably first half of the season, pretty solidified in this Carolina offense.
What's his name again?
Chubba Hubba.
Are you sure about that?
Had that one teed up.
It was a trap. It was a setup.
It was a trap.
Chuba Hubbard, followed by Cortland Sutton, Romeo Dobbs, A.D. Mitchell, Cole Kmet, Zach Charbonnet, Jerome Ford, Kendre Miller. That really stinks. Because I was really hoping Zach Charbonnet would take a tumble back to me. And what also really stinks is that Pat Freiermuth is at the top of the board. And had I not taken Jake Ferguson and instead gone a Jalen Warren, I would have been, I might have been content just taking a Pat Freiermuth here and streaming tight ends then. Hindsight's 2020, right? And I would have felt a lot better about this running back room at that point than you don't feel as great about tight end, but I digress. All that to say, I'm going to go ahead. I passed up on Zeke last round. I'm going to go ahead and take Rico Dowdle this round, who, again, if he is the wide receiver 1 in Dallas, if he is the more used back around the goal line, please tell me you got sniped again. Please confirm it. I can't play the sound effect unless you confirm it, Ty. Based on no reaction.
Womp womp.
So Rico Dowdle is my pick. I already talked about him when I explained through Tyjae Spears and Ezekiel Elliott. So Rico Dowdle, on the off chance he could be the one in Dallas. Roughly 0 RB field, I will take that. Khalil Shakir was likely who Ty got sniped on, or Rico Dowdle, one of the two. I'll take it with
Dowdle.
I'm going to assume Dowdle as well. Ty, hey man, you having a good Sunday night?
I feel like I need to go to therapy after this mock draft. Like, just vent and golly, hate this.
This is a safe. You can let it all out.
I hate picking right behind Lucas because Lucas, when he said he's coming with a vengeance, he quite literally meant it.
You thought I was joking at the for the podcast intro.
Well, I didn't
You thought I was
when
joking.
I didn't. I will not
Acknowledge
you.
me.
I will acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief. Paul Heyman.
Cameron's like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah,
I don't
right.
watch
Cam
WWE.
has no idea. Gosh. Get with the program here. So my last two picks here. One of them is going to be a running back. Gosh darn it. I'm biting on more training camp news. I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
That's so disgusting. That's so gross.
It's gross. I doubt that this backfield is going to be a one-man backfield. I really think it'll be a split between two guys in whichever combination of Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and Kamani Vidal. But for Gus Edwards, where did he go in this draft? The round before?
Gus Edwards, he went 10 at the 10,
Yep.
10.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I wouldn't be taking Gus Edwards at that spot, but like if it certainly sounds like it's going to be J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards leading that backfield. So just taking a shot on J.K. Dobbins. Again, this is quite literally the last or the second to last round. If it doesn't hit, I can just cut my losses. So that was my last pick. I'm probably just going to go best player available that I have here. It's not a tight end or a quarterback. I've got one.
Rashid Shaheed, you coward.
No, I'm gonna go down. I'm going with the next Puka Nacua. I don't. Sorry.
I knew you were taking him.
Totally uncalled for. No. I'm just going with the Patriots wide receiver that I believe can emerge as the wide receiver one in that offense.
I do like the Jalen Polk pick. I really do, especially in the last round when you're throwing lottery ticket darts here. I do like Jalen Polk as a pick there. I'm going to take another running back again after going 0 RB through the first 5 rounds, and then taking Jake Ferguson in the 8th and missing out on a little bit of value there. I am going to go ahead and take a guy who I think could just walk into free touches this year, who has a lead back in his backfield that has dealt with injuries. Ty Chandler playing behind Aaron Jones. Yeah, Aaron Jones could easily miss another 3-4 games this year. Again, I walk into a running back who then can give me potentially top 20 production on the week that he is the starter. And in a good matchup, maybe even top 15 upside. So on a team that just needs running backs, that just needs to strike gold at some point, I'm fine throwing a late round dart on Ty Chandler. And frankly, he or Rico Dowdle, if they don't pan out in week 1, will likely be one of the first players dropped for that running back, for that Kyron Williams this year, for that Devon Achane this year. But if something were to happen to Aaron Jones early in the season, Ty Chandler just walks into free touches in a Vikings offense that is going to need somebody to take those. Mike Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Luke Musgrave, Jerry Jeudy, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Wright. Cameron, with the last pick in the draft, close it out for us.
Ah, man. Well, I could go.
Why are you
Rashid
groaning
Shaheed.
about it's the last pick?
I feel like I
Oh,
shouldn't because I feel like that goes against like things I've said this offseason. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Josh Palmer. I truly believe he has top 10 upside. I'm just kidding. He's my last pick of the draft, so I'll go with Josh Palmer there.
He's got top 10 wide receiver on the Chargers upside.
Well, with all the camp news coming out about Quentin Johnson, I'm not too worried about him sliding below 2. So I will.
Let's wrap it out there, fellas. Cameron, if you want to throw a highlight on each of our teams here, I'll let you go through yours first at the 101.
Yeah, I took Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne to start. Mike Evans, Dalton Kincaid next. Amari Cooper, Kelvin Ridley. I got the value of the draft with Kyler Murray. Took Jalen Warren, who Lucas should have taken. Then I got Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett, Chubba Hubba, and Josh Palmer.
Yeah, I should have taken Jalen Warren because my team at the 109. Hey, you know what? We do this. We do these mock drafts to experiment, right? We're not out here trying to show you in these videos the absolute perfect strategy to dominate your leagues. We're trying to figure it out ourselves. We're trying to solve this puzzle as well. But at the 109, I got AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr. as my start, stacked AJ Brown with Jalen Hurts in the third. Then went Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins. I closed it out at wide receiver there. I didn't take another wide receiver the rest of the draft. So I went David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Jake Ferguson in the 8th to get my tight end with upside. Then Brian Robinson, Tyjae Spears, Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler to close out this draft. Ty at the 111. It was Snipe City for you today. How'd your team salvage?
I just can't wait for all the people to be like, why did you take 6 running backs? That's not smart. No, my draft I started with Garrett Wilson, then with Saquon Barkley at the 202, then with James Cook, DK Metcalf, then went pass catcher next 3 picks with Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin, and Deontay Johnson. I grabbed my quarterback in Jordan Love in the 8th round, then just built out depth with training camp buzz with Chase Brown, with Curtis Samuel, with J.K. Dobbins, and Jalen Polk.
We'll throw these teams up on the socials, let you all decide who had the best mock draft. I actually think this is going to be a tight one. I don't think there's a clear winner here. I'm going to be modest, and I am going to say I don't think there's a clear winner here. I think there's strengths to each of our teams that I would prefer, but I don't know if anybody's going to walk out of the vote a clear winner. I'm being modest. I am. I'm saying this from the heart.
I think there's been a clear winner each time. It's just the people seem to be just off their rockers. So
I think people are just sick of you peer pressuring them into voting for you.
It's not even peer pressure.
What if I peer pressure them into voting for me? I'm just
talking about Cam. Whoa.
I'm not even peer pressuring them. I'm just saying if
you're
you
threatening.
Don't vote for me, you're an idiot. Like that's just like I'm just gonna leave it there. That's not even peer pressure.
We need to close it out. You called the people. You can't call
truth.
the people idiots. No, it's not allowed.
I'm not saying they are idiots. I'm only saying they're idiots if they vote for you guys. That's all I'm saying. It could be
You know how Cam hasn't watched WWE. You know how he hasn't watched WWE before. This dude is a phenomenal heel. Just calling out the people. You guys stink. You are a phenomenal heel, Cameron.
I'm just phenomenal. We can just leave it at that.
The phenomenal one, AJ Styles.
FF Fellas on Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. We'll be bringing you a mock draft every single week until the start of the season, along with 2 additional podcast episodes as well. So we will be back tomorrow and Thursday. I'll be out tomorrow, but I'll be back for Thursday. Don't you worry. Make sure you're following us. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on Twitter, CamLawFFF for Cameron, Tyler _Plath from Tyler. We'll see you all tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.